All right, good afternoon. Welcome to another edition of The Elephant in the Room. Our regular host, Sam Demarco, is away getting much-needed R&R. My name is John Schnaedter, Executive Director of the Republican Committee of Allegheny County. And as always, we're joined by our amazing producer, Daryl Grandy. Thanks for being here. Today we have assembled a panel to discuss the homelessness in our region and the decay of Pittsburgh. Today we're joined by Erin Koper, Chairwoman of the Allegheny County Council of Republican Women. We also have Gina Pollice, Chairwoman of the City of Pittsburgh Republican Committee, District 2. Both women have been instrumental helping our committee with our Get Out the Vote efforts and a lot of other activities. And we're also joined by Bobby Harr, who is an independent and investigative journalist and writer focused on issues of local and national importance through shoe leather reporting. Bobby is based in Pittsburgh and has traveled the country for over 5 years working to uncover and executing man-on-the-street interviews to get the full story. Eyes on Pittsburgh is a citizen journalism project founded by Bobby Harr that documents homelessness and drug addictions in Pittsburgh. So thank you all for being here. I know we're all looking forward to hearing more about this important topic that is so important to everybody. I will now turn it over to Erin.
Thanks, John, and thanks for having me back. I'm really excited to do this show today because I have seen firsthand in the community that I live in and Gina lives in as well. We're both in the same District 2, City of Pittsburgh. It's devastating. I mean, I've been really noticing it since May and, seeing people walking around like zombies in my neighborhood. The drug addiction, the open drug use has been just incredibly tragic to see in our neighborhoods. I've lived in my neighborhood. I've owned my home for 7 years. So I really think that this is an important ongoing issue that we have. And through learning, Gina and I were talking before we came on set, this has been an ongoing thing within our city for longer than what we have known previously. So it's just sad to know that when you don't take care of people in the city, people who are mentally ill, living on the streets, living in garbage-filled campsites, and then it spirals out of control. And then it starts flooding into our neighborhoods, and it's becoming a public health hazard. So I want to turn it over to Bobby because he's our special guest today. And I want to, let him walk us through some of the things that he has seen in the city of Pittsburgh.
Yeah, so thanks, Erin. What I do is pretty straightforward, but, I'm never surprised, right, with what I'm doing. I'm going into these campsites, and I'm always learning something new about these people. I'm not just, a lot of people see the videos, and it seems to get more views whenever I do videos of these encampments and show just how bad it is. The truth is it's shocking. It's compelling footage. The imagery of it, the visual is something that you can hardly scroll past, right? Seeing needles all over the place, seeing piles and piles of garbage. But what gets to me more than anything isn't so much, I've gotten kind of hardened to the visuals and the environment. You get kind of used to that after a while. It's the personal stories, right? The personal stories when I interview these people, which, it isn't such a compelling visual as the camp itself, right? And the garbage itself and everything. These people have real stories. These are people that, whether they're from here or not, they have real stories, they have real problems, it's sad. And as someone with my own struggles with addiction and stuff like that myself in the past, this is something that always hits home with me. So I get a lot out of talking to these people and hearing where they came from, what their family life is like, if they have any left. Some of them have relationships, some of them choose to be homeless, some of them don't. Some of them want to be addicts, some of them don't. So it's just a really complex issue, and honestly, I'm constantly throwing a curveball.
I have to say, when I first started following your stories, and I follow you on Twitter, and I also have you on my Facebook as well, and we'll get into the multiple ways that you can follow Bobby once I get through with this, but I have to say your personal interest stories that you do when you interview the people out on the street, they're gut-wrenching. And you don't really realize, I think we become desensitized, I think we've all, over the past decade or two, have seen a panhandler on the side of the ramp or seen, someone, and then when you actually get in there and talk to them and seeing the root cause of why they're there and the simple things that they're asking for, which is just food and a shower, but yet they are given needles. They are being provided everything but the drug, and they are telling us this, right, Bobby?
Yeah. I mean, that's what a lot of outreach groups do. Good work. I will say that. These people mean well. They do good work. I don't personally agree with some of the stuff like, what they call harm reduction and giving out needles and stuff like that. I don't necessarily think that's the answer. But at the same time, they do some good work. There's places like, I'll say, like Central Outreach that actually helps people with like getting a birth certificate, getting their ID, rent assistance sometimes. I always ask these people, I don't want to just focus on the bad, right? Mm-hmm. I ask these people that are living on the streets, like, who's doing good as well, right?
Because we need them. In order to go forward, we need these nonprofits and these third-party organizations to actually rehabilitate them. That's
right.
Good to know that they're actually doing good work. But what I noticed, the common thing that they always say when you ask them, if you were provided rehab, would you go? The one girl did admit that she wouldn't have a week ago.
Yep.
And you asked her what changed her mind, and she said it's cold.
Yeah.
I mean, there's always going to be a different reason, but I think that the one common denominator is that they all want it. Yeah. So they always say that it's harder to take that chance when they're given, a crack pipe or the tools to keep getting high, especially when the one that you interviewed, which I thought was so compelling. Tell us how cheap he said it was to get fentanyl in the city of Pittsburgh.
$5 a bag, right? $5 a bag for a bag of fentanyl. Now, I don't have any personal knowledge of how long that's going to last you, but he says that's going to take him only a few hours, right? And I mean, this topic actually really blows my mind because it makes me wonder what is next, right? Fentanyl is not, at one point fentanyl was what was laced in heroin, right? That was the bad batch of heroin, okay? I don't know if a lot of people know this. Heroin is few and far between to come across anymore for a lot of these people, and a lot of these addicts don't even want it. They want the fentanyl. Fentanyl used to be what made a batch of heroin a bad batch, a batch that had people dropping dead. People now seek out fentanyl because it's much more potent. I believe fentanyl it's either 50 or 100 times, one of the two, 50 or 100 times more potent than heroin itself, right? And then you have another drug.
So it's impossible to get off of, would you say?
I mean, I don't have experience with it, but I know plenty of people that have, and they describe it as it feels like you're dying, but you're not. So you can get off of it, but, I'll tell you that my problems with addiction, I struggle with that every single day. It's not that I'm sitting here white-knuckling it and sweating and whatnot, and my drug of choice wasn't opiates or anything like that, but I will say that there's things that I can't do anymore. I can't live the life that most normal people can't. I can't have a beer. I can't have a drink. I can't do anything. I can't hang out with anybody that I used to hang out with that I did drugs with because it's going to send me into a panic attack. It doesn't mean I'm going to use. I've gotten to a point now where I feel very strong in my recovery. I got sick of who I was and what I was doing, and I did something about it, and, I'm proud of that. But I can't put myself around other triggers. Recovery is really about putting a barrier between yourself and the substance, whether that be drugs, alcohol, or both in my case, right? And the less of a barrier you put, the weaker of a barrier you put, that primal brain of yours, that addicted mind is going to do everything it can to get to it. So I could very well go to a bar, sit at the bar, and have a Coke or a Pepsi, but it's not going to be easy for me. I'm going to be inching myself closer and closer to a relapse, and that's kind of the same thing here. If you surround yourself with the very things that you use to get high, even if you're trying to detox, if you're trying to not use, and you're surrounded by needles, and you use needles, I can only imagine that's not very easy when you just have a constant reminder around you, The truth is, drugs and alcohol, there's a reason people get addicted to them. It's because they're pretty good. Even though that's the truth nobody wants to talk about, they're pretty good. People can't stop using them for a reason. They feel good. The thing that you need to do with your life is figure out something that feels even better, that gets you away from it. That's the barrier you put in between it. It's not easy to stop drugs and alcohol. You have to find something that you enjoy better, that you're more passionate about, and that's why it's so hard to stop this stuff. So you're not doing any service to yourself by surrounding yourself with exactly what you used to use to get high. You're going to be thinking about it all the time.
So as far as the outreach people that you've seen out there that do good, what do you suggest as being someone who has, like you just described, and like you have a willpower and you know where to put yourself and where to remove yourself from? What can you suggest that these people might need to really remove themselves from this world?
So I really appreciate the outreach groups that do, they focus on things like getting people to where they have a chance to change their life, right? Instead of just supplying them with, and look, I understand the purpose of supplying them with clean supplies to get high. The truth is, not everybody's ready for recovery. Not everybody's ready to get clean, and you won't get clean no matter how much you're compelled if you're not ready to do it. I had to get sick of it myself, take accountability myself, take responsibility, man up, and decide to do something about my life. I had to take that step. I had to hit rock bottom, and I did, and I changed my life because of it. Very grateful for that. But I'll tell you what wouldn't have helped me if people were giving me supplies to come, here's a clean supplies, here's a clean bag, here's a clean whatever it ends up being. That wouldn't have helped me. As an addict, you learn very quickly, very easily how to manipulate people, how to take advantage of a situation, because your brain only allows for that, right? So what would have helped me is if somebody would have nudged me in the right direction. I believe modeling good behavior is what eventually leads to people wanting to mimic that good behavior. You want to be like your role model, right? So when you exhibit good behavior and you exhibit what other people should be, and you present yourself and give people opportunities as somebody that's a productive member of society, that doesn't use drugs, that doesn't lay around in their own filth all day, eventually your side's going to catch on, your cause is going to catch on, and people are going to want to be like this. But people need an opportunity. They need an opportunity to change their lives. I don't think they need an opportunity to continue using.
I think you're absolutely right. And you have traveled the country, correct?
Yeah.
Reporting. Where have you worked before you started doing your independent journalism?
So I worked for Project Veritas for 4 years, just over 4 years. I did undercover journalism, like confrontation, ambush style interviews, stuff like that. And I traveled, I think I've been to 42 states. I traveled all across the country.
So you've seen in other cities like San Francisco, Austin, Texas, you've seen what works and what doesn't work. So what can you say to help us here in the city of Pittsburgh? Yeah,
so listen, I wish I had the answers. I really do. I don't know exactly what the answers are. If I did, I promise you I would run for office. But I don't know.
I'd vote for you.
I don't know what the answers are. I've just seen that, we can become like Portland. We can become like San Francisco. And while areas like that are extraordinarily worse than what we currently are dealing with, we can get to that point. They started somewhere. I know other areas try different things, like they've tried the city-sanctioned homeless encampments in Austin. I've talked to people that say they work. I've talked to people that say they don't work. I know in Houston they did something similar. Sam was talking about that. And, I don't know what the answers are here. But I don't believe.
Do you think it's policy driven by the local politicians in those cities?
Yes, absolutely.
Would you say it's a progressive policy driven type way, like their ideology that is allowing for people to live in tent cities and they're empowering them to live in camps?
Well, it's hard to think anything otherwise, right? We live in a county where Sam's the only Republican countywide, the only elected Republican countywide. So he has very little power on the grand scale. So it's hard to believe, when you have a situation like like we do with the homelessness, and you have only Democrats in charge. Mm-hmm. Who's responsible for the policy, right?
Correct.
So at that point, it's hard to believe anything else. So I don't like to attach it to one single party, but when you have one party rule in the entire city, in the entire county, who's making those choices?
As well as those other cities. So there's only one way to to
Right.
correlate that. Gina, I want to bring you in on this because you follow a lot of the city council meetings. You watch them on Zoom. You go to them yourself. You are the chair of District 2. There is a new proposal, and it's actually not new. So can you kind of like explain like what's going on with that as far as the 2 council members who proposed that?
Yes, I believe it first came about in January of last year. Through City Council, they decided to sort of start a separate committee to address the homelessness issue in the city of Pittsburgh. And then in May, the 2 City Council members had proposed, sort of a plan. There were different things, that they had in the works. Back in May, they didn't really have a set idea of what they were going to do. They just knew that the issue had to be addressed. There was talk of what actually that we're seeing now with the sort of pop-up tent community in the interim. But in my opinion, that is not, they're still on the street, these people. They're still in a tent, whether the tent has, heat, and they bring in, portable showers. I'm not even sure how they're going to do that. The only thing I know is through research, what I saw that they have done in Denver, which seems to be something that they're trying to model the city of Pittsburgh program after, where they kind of have an area that's sort of a large parking lot, and they have all of these tents inside.
And they're managed.
Yes, and then that gets to a whole other sort of ball of wax is this sort of becoming a homeless industrial complex?
Right.
Where people are making and corporations are making money off of people being homeless.
And if we don't really get to the root cause of the problem or fix the problem, and back to what Bobby was saying, as someone who has struggled from addiction and still does, how do you get them to actually go back into society and be, working societal members, getting a job, having a family? Bobby, and I just remembered this too, when you interviewed the one in the West End, she had said that there's been babies born in those tents. So Gina, back to even what you were saying, if we have these sanctioned areas for people living in tents, are we going to just allow babies to be born in tents? I mean, what are we doing here?
I don't know. And then how are they picking the 50 people? Like they said that this so-called area will have enough tents or accommodations for 50 people. So out of the hundreds of homeless people that they say are right now currently on the streets, who then gets the heated tent? Like, are they picking out of there are so many questions to me.
Right.
There are so many things that need to be answered. And I don't know. I just feel that you're just enabling street life by using this model. You are not empowering these people to get out of the situation that they're in, whether it be because of drugs, or is it somebody that just lost their job and then could not afford to pay their rent or pay their mortgage. They need help to get themselves back on track.
Another thing that woman that you interviewed said, the same one that has witnessed babies being born in these tents, she also said that there's a need for women healthcare or women care in these shelters. She said that is something that's lacking. So again, that for someone like me who doesn't know much about that lifestyle, I would never have known that. Even if I tried to help, I didn't know that was a need. So who is listening to the needs of these people, right? I mean, Bobby, since you came to town, literally, you have exposed so much of this right under our noses, literally under my nose. There is a camp that is literally in the hillside of where I live, okay? I have seen some of the people that you have met in my neighborhood on drugs. They're walking with their dogs, but they're talk about the needles that you've seen in that camp, which is close to where I live. I mean, that was the most you said you've ever seen of any of the camps.
Yeah, so I thought the south side, the McCardle Viaduct one that caught on fire and it was cleaned up and everything like that, I thought that was the worst in terms of needles, and that one was pretty bad.
Well, real quick, how long has that one actually been there, that camp?
That was 12 years.
12 years.
And it's back.
Okay. So this has been an ongoing issue. Now we're trying to do something about it. But why? I mean, is it because it's so out of control that they can't contain it anymore? Is it because of past policies from a previous mayor administration that allowed like this permissive environment of camps? Is it because you are blowing the lid off it? Literally viral videos, you're getting national coverage on it. I mean, I think it's a multitude of things, but I think that 12 years makes me angry that people have been living like this. It is not humane, and it is a public safety issue.
Yeah, I mean, what blows my mind is, we do things like, former Mayor Bill Peduto, he opened the Office of Community Health and Safety in 2020, right? And then you have things like Lee Schmidt, the Director of Public Safety. You have Public Works that's supposed to do this. If you're going to create an office called the Office of Community Health and Safety, your community should be healthy and safe. That's what I get out of it, right? And it's just not. I don't know who takes responsibility for this stuff, but nobody wants to. It blows my mind that nobody wants to talk.
We need leaders who take accountability, and I think we're seeing that locally, but also across the country. I mean, we have an open border, this fentanyl that is so easy to get in the city of Pittsburgh, a man that you interviewed who was about your age it's sad that he was a young, able-bodied working person who got out of prison and was put back on the street. He was not rehabilitated there, and he didn't know where else to go, and he got re-addicted to drugs. And he was weaning himself off. I believe he was 12 days sober.
Yeah.
But again, he had to do that. He had to have the willpower to do that himself. Not everyone can. But it's, how do we get here? And where do we go from here? Gina, what do you think?
I also believe that, a lot of questions need to be asked to some, government officials, the mayor's office. They don't seem to respond too much of anything when it comes to, even when council asks the
Gina,
mayor's
I'm glad you
office
brought
for
this up.
things.
I'm
They
glad.
are, it's crickets.
Yep.
I actually have a quote, Bobby. I was looking at your Twitter last night, and we're going to tell everybody where they can find Eyes on Pittsburgh. But I was looking at his Twitter, Eyes on Pittsburgh, and there was a quote that you put from an executive person in the mayor's office. This administration is never going to run away from the hard questions and are proud of the work we have done to make this city a better place for us all. Literally, the same day, the mayor of Pittsburgh refused to comment on a viral video about you cleaning up a campsite for a media tour that he was doing. But yet, the mayor's office put out a statement saying that they will never shy away from the hard questions. And Gina, you hit that right on the nose. Yeah. I mean, what do we say about that? I think it's pretty obvious that we need leaders with accountability. I think we need to start paying attention to what's going on in our own local government. We need to start, calling the 311 services. I'm reading a book right now it's called San Francisco, and it's Why Progressives Ruin Cities, and it's by Michael Schellenberger. And there is a ton of information in here of what's failed in other cities, and I haven't gotten to anything that's worked yet, so I'd let you know when I finish this book. But again, this is saying how progressives have long defended the right of the homeless to camp in public places. I'm just starting to see a correlation here with these progressive leaders that we have in our local government. And when are we, like how Sam, you interviewed the chair, Sam Demarco, recently, last week actually,
Yep.
and he can't be here today, but I really thought his interview, again, you can find on Eyes on Pittsburgh, to be very informative, because if it were up to Sam Demarco, who is an at-large county councilman, he would lead a task force to go around the country and find solutions, right? We need leaders who are going to find solutions to fix problems. But, we do have to run to a commercial break. And as Sam Demarco would always say, we got to pay the bills around here.
Pay the bills.
So, we will get back to this hot topic, because this issue is an ongoing issue and it's not going anywhere. So we'll catch you on the flip side.
All right, folks, welcome back to the Elephant in the Room here on WJAS 1320 and Talk 99.1 FM. Today we are continuing our conversation here with our panel here discussing homelessness and the decay of the city of Pittsburgh. We're joined by Erin Koper, Gina Pollice, and Bobby Harr, talking about homelessness and the decay of Pittsburgh. Erin, I'll turn it back over to you.
Yeah, I want to have Bobby kind of tell everyone, all the listeners out there, where they can follow him. On what media outlets are you on, Bobby?
So I'm on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Rumble. Across the board, it's at Eyes on PGH, right? So just Eyes on PGH on every single social platform.
And real quick, I just want to plug an event that we have next week. It's next Wednesday. It's called Twitter with a Twist. And you might know the guy, the king of Twitter himself, Scott Pressler. He has been on this show several times with me in this past election cycle. He is heavily invested in southwestern Pennsylvania, and he loves it here, and he is coming back already. And the Allegheny County Council of Republican Women, are hosting a really fun event at the Hula Bar on December 6th, so next Wednesday from 7 to 9. And basically, it is how to get out the vote and utilize your social media tool, whichever one you use. It doesn't have to be Twitter, to really get out the vote, get volunteers, make our voices heard, and encourage other women and people to start thinking about running for office, to start getting involved, and to make a difference. So if you are a lady out there who wants to learn how to make the use of social media and you want to sign up to be in our Women's Council, then you want to come see us. And who doesn't want to come see Scott Pressler? I mean, he's the king. So, but, talking about social media, let's talk about, Bobby, like how social media has really made such a huge impact in the work that you do. I mean, without the visual and without the interviews of hearing the people's struggles out there, I mean, social media can actually be a very useful tool in getting out a message and showing issues that our local government does not want exposed.
Yeah, so I mean, I see social media as a huge advantage for what I do, as opposed to, I've written for newspapers, I've done TV, but I see it as a huge advantage because I can just in real time report. Like, for example, whenever they cleaned up the First Avenue homeless encampment, I think I pumped out like 11 or 12 videos in one day just reporting on it. And there were people there from the Post-Gazette. I saw Andy Sheehan from KDKA. There was media everywhere. But I have the advantage with social media. Often news breaks on X, or formerly Twitter, before it does anywhere else. Or, you usually get it there first. A lot of people get, I forget what the statistic is, but a ton of people get their news from social media. And I can just do it in real time. That's where I see the advantage of, I've considered things like getting different cameras and whatnot, for better quality. But having a decent smartphone nowadays with a high quality camera and having a Twitter account, I mean, anybody really, what it does is it empowers citizen journalism, which I'm a huge proponent of. And I think so many more people should be doing it. But you can in real time give information to the public, give visual to the public of what you're seeing, what's going on, and there's nothing more powerful than that, right? I think it's sort of an evolution of the press and, modern day society.
I wanted to ask you this. I mean, speaking of social media, because I think that our city has been equated with this one stinky thing, and I wanted to ask you, what is the scoop with the poop? I know. I wanted to do that so bad.
Erin just did that.
No, but really, what is the scoop with the poop in downtown Pittsburgh? Can you please, and actually that went viral on your social media. So let's talk about it. What's going on?
Yeah, that was, sorry, I'm still trying to get over that one.
I had to lighten the mood a little bit. It's a really heavy topic.
Yeah, we're just riffing on and on and on. And
I wanted to do that so bad.
If there was
a sound effect from my phone, by the way. It wasn't from me.
Yeah. You caught me off guard. That was good. No, but that I know exactly the picture you're talking about. That went viral. I mean, to think, out of all this work I'm doing, and I'm going out and I'm going to these camps and I'm walking around, out of all the things to get the most amount of views, it is literally a picture of a hotel bathroom with poop smeared on the wall. I mean, I can't think of anything more ridiculous than that.
So do people send this into you? Like,
Yes.
like leads on these things?
Yes, all the time. I mean, daily. I get more stuff. Most of the stuff you get is just unusable. But I encourage anybody to send me as many pictures, videos as you have or whatever, because you never know what I'm going to use and what I'm not going to. But Eyes on Pittsburgh highly encourages user submissions, right? Because I can't be everywhere at once. It's just me and a few other guys that help me out with this, and so I do post a lot of user submitted content, which sometimes happens to be a hotel bathroom that has I heart poop written in poop on the wall.
I mean, that was a lot. I don't know how that came out of just one person, but I that was impressive.
Yeah, that seemed like a bad day.
But you also took a video of someone actually taking a poop, and then
I didn't take that video. That was also a user submitted one.
Okay, but I'm saying, so we have been getting a bad rep down here in the city of Pittsburgh for the amount of urination on our streets and feces. So again, going back to mental illness, we have a serious issue here. I mean, I know we're laughing about it. I mean, it could have very well been just a drunk person. I doubt it was. I think it really was a mental
I've
illness.
never been that drunk.
Right. So I definitely think this is a problem because our city, people, my friends out in the suburbs are, saying, we don't come to the city anymore because of these reasons, because of what they're seeing. This is exactly why some of the local media and, local officials want to keep these things hidden under the rug.
Yeah.
Because, I understand that their businesses need to thrive and you need patrons to come into our city and support businesses. However, these very businesses, these hotel lobbies, these hotel bathrooms, I know Wiener World has been in the news. Marty Griffin has reported on that so many times. But I mean, they're struggling and we cannot hide it anymore. I mean, people know about it, so this is something needs to be done. And I'm just not sure, circling back to everything we were talking about in the first segment of the show, are these sanctioned camps going to help with this issue? Are these portable bathrooms helping with this issue? Can you speak on that, Bobby? Do you know if these portable bathrooms that have been put around the city, are they making a difference?
Well, to speak on the West End Circle one, that's a good question because I was wondering the same thing. You think, let's just be honest here. We think, you see a homeless encampment and you see a porta potty in front of it, you think automatically that thing's destroyed, right? You think that's not a clean bathroom. But I will give credit to Bridge Outreach in Pittsburgh. They provided this porta potty to the West End Circle homeless encampment, which is located right in front of it. And, we checked it out. It's clean. It's managed. And I think that goes back to the original point here of these managed communities, right? They have to have staff there. They have to have, let's not kid ourselves, like there's a reason that these areas and these tent encampments become filthy, become filled with garbage, needles, clothes, furniture, bike parts. It does, there's no limit to what you can find in a homeless encampment. And the reason a lot of these people are living on the street, among many other things, is because their lives are unmanageable, right? And that goes right into the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous and Narcotics Anonymous, not to get off topic there, but that's step one. You admitted to yourself and a higher power that your life had become unmanageable. Your life is unmanageable if you're on the street, right? Mm-hmm. And that means you can't take care of yourself. So how are you going to take care of your surroundings? You're not going to keep things clean. So it does require something like, Bridge Outreach, according to these homeless people at West End, they're paying somebody to come maintain this porta potty, right? That's going to be necessary, right? So if it's going to work in any way to have a contained area where you're having these homeless encampments, if it's going to work at all, if there's even the slightest chance, it has to be managed. I absolutely agree with that. There's no way this doesn't become just a concentrated area of the same exact hellscape that it is as it's spread out without someone there to manage it, without multiple people there to manage it. So that's going to have to be the case, right? So I agree with that. It's just the idea itself as a whole. Does it work? Does it not? But
do we know how much this is going to cost taxpayers to manage these facilities, these encampments? Gina, do you have any clue?
I don't believe so. I don't even think that they have gotten sort of that far. I mean, I believe from the last city council meeting, it was just pushed that it's going to go to the planning committee. It was a standing committee meeting last, and then now it goes to the next phase. I mean, there's sort of a protocol the city council, has to follow things. They just can't say something's going to happen. Right. And then it happens. I mean, there is a
process,
protocol that, they're required to follow before things proceed. And then, like when you were talking about the management, who is going to be the management of this facility of tents? And do they have a proven track record in other cities? Because there are a lot of other, let's say, groups or organizations that they sort of know that cities are turning to these managed areas. So they can just be, let's say, a realty type organization, but they don't have a background in, with mental health or with drug addiction or with anything to help these people. They're just, and I hate to say it this way, but they're just trying to make a buck. So they're just going to say, oh, here is my proposal to run this type of facility because it's happened in other cities. All you have to do is do a Google search and you could see where, in other cities, they've turned a hotel into, sort of, they wanted to have a structured sort of type of an encampment. But then it ended up that there were people, cooking meth in the hotel rooms and, the hotel was catching fire. There was another city where they had turned a hotel into one of these encampments and people were being poisoned because of the chemicals and the fumes from the cooking of the meth was coming through the vents in the hotel and people were getting sick. And then is there going to be is this going to be a no barrier facility? Because that's, I know, some of the arguments of the people of the Housing First initiative. Mm-hmm. They feel that you should be allowed to use drugs when you're in these facilities. They don't like a sort of shelter where they don't allow drug use because it's against the rights of the people. But then, like you said, with the pregnant woman maybe that gave birth in that West End facility, who is making the rules? Are they going to allow, women and children? What if somebody is in that facility that doesn't want drug use around them?
That's a good point.
But then they have somebody in their tent next to them that's using drugs, but they're maybe trying to get off the drugs. They're seeing it like what you were saying, Bobby. To me, there is just so much that's going to go into all of this. Who is making these decisions?
Just to ad lib on the cost real quick, they did estimate what it's going to cost. So I heard two different things. The official number they estimate is $50,000 a month per site, which only fits 25 to 50 people. So you got a few hundred people there. And that's going to tally up, right? I know other people would argue that the cost of inaction is blah, blah, blah. But at the same time, that's a lot of money. And we have to, if it's going to work, let's start there. Let's have a model that works, and then we can justify the money. But we don't want to just throw money at something that's not going to work. And then back to your point about having rules in these areas, I like what Sam said, which is you have to have compassion, but you have to have accountability as well, right?
And enforce laws.
Yes.
If they're breaking a law, they have to go to jail just like the rest of us.
Because last time I checked,
drugs are illegal.
They're illegal drugs.
Yeah.
Like that hasn't changed.
I want to read you an insert from this book that I'm reading. It says, but the biggest reason many people come to San Francisco is for the cheap and abundant drugs and lax law enforcement. It didn't want this homeless person quoted says, I didn't want that straight life, said a 32-year-old homeless man from Alabama. I was after the candy, getting high, easy money, freedom, ladies, getting high some more. So again, is this breeding this culture? Are we going to invite more people who already know from the previous administration, like Sam said in his interview, where, we are allowing this environment, this permissive environment is how Sam said it, to allow campers and to allow this open air drug, environment. And and the needles are abundant. And are people going to know? I mean, in these other pilot programs in other cities, I'm just curious, are people going there knowing that they're going to get running water, heat, and be able to live in like a colony? Because they're already coming here to live on our riverbanks, along our trails where college kids jog before they go to class. I mean, these are along the south side and in Oakland. I mean, it's becoming a public safety issue, but if we have them in a managed camp, are we just going to be inviting more homeless people to come here to live that way? The people that want to live that way.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like it. I would point you to any suburb, right? For the most part, you go to any suburb. There's a reason why you see these in the concentrated areas like Pittsburgh, the metropolis areas, right? It's because where they get the services, where they are attended to, they're going to come. So the more permissive you have an environment, the more you offer people that either have no choice to, or they prefer to live on the street. The more you offer them, the more will come, right? When you give people something for free, you can't really take it away. That's what we've seen with a lot of things, a lot of social safety nets. That's a whole other topic. But when you start giving someone something for free, it's very, very difficult to take it away. It's expected now of you. So, I mean, yeah, I would think that's going to, the more permissive it becomes, the more people are going to show up. Look at Skid Row. I mean, Skid Row used to be a lot smaller than it is now.
There's documentaries about it now.
Yeah.
I mean, anyone can just go see. Like, these policies in these cities do not work. And they've even taken, in this book, which I've read, and I don't have the exact, to paraphrase it, but they've literally had studies done, okay? And they put people in like a semi-permanent housing situation. And a lot of these outreach people became very close because they were always working with these people, and they became like family to them. More people in that semi-permanent housing actually died there than on the street. And they preferred to be on the street, the ones that did survive, because they wanted to go back to the environment where they had their drug dealers there, and they didn't know what to do. And there's more to it, but I don't think that the housing first is a solution that it works. I mean, it comes with a lot of other services that need to be a robust initiative to make it really work, to get these people a sustainable life outside of this culture that they're living in, right?
Right.
And Gina, going back, like we were just talking about the suburbs and like what you were saying, but do you feel, now you live a little further out from the city than I do, you kind of border Mount Lebanon area, Dormont. Mm-hmm. Do you feel that you're seeing, because I'm seeing it a lot more harder than you are currently, because I'm like more in the city center than you are, but do you feel that you have seen an influx of any type of activity in your area?
Oh, definitely 100%. I mean, we have, when I've been to, our community meetings, there is that Banksville Shopping Center where the Coons, supermarket is. The community police officer has even told us, there's panhandlers there. They were becoming very aggressive. They were actually there's no other word to say it. They were stalking people that were going to the ATM machine and then following them to their car, asking for money, and he came right out and said, call 911. You should,
Right.
You shouldn't have to deal with an aggressive panhandler that is following you from the bank to your car, asking you for money, the whole way there.
It's interesting that you actually said that, because I didn't even know that you were going to talk about that. And I didn't know, because I go to that Coons. I shop there sometimes, and we go to Coach's, that great bar that's right there. And we love the owner of that place. But in San Francisco in 2004, the city passed a ballot initiative that banned aggressive and intimidating panhandling, such as near ATM machines and inside buses. In 2010, San Francisco voters approved an ordinance that made it illegal to sit or lie on sidewalks between 7 a.m. and 11 p.m. And in 2016, voters banned camping on sidewalks. Now, progressive homelessness advocates fought against these initiatives because it said they were violating their human rights. And so that is exactly what you just described. And this has happened in San Francisco. And progressive advocates, local leaders, stick up for the people who are acting this way in society. I mean, it literally says that the homeless must know they are supported by progressive elected officials, advocates, and citizens. And a homeless man in this book actually quoted, "This is San Francisco downtown. Anyone has the right to be downtown." So they feel like they are obligated to be out in society like this. You know, I saw a homeless guy last May in Point State Park. There was children everywhere. I took a video of it. I posted it. It got like 1,000 views. But he was very aggressive at the garbage can, I know, and he was pulling out whatever he could and just throwing it while people were walking past, yelling at people walking past. Clearly, he had a mental disorder, you know, and I don't want, you know, I feel bad for people like that. However, if one of us was acting like that in public, we would have been handcuffed and carted away. So again, you know, what do we do about this? And who is enforcing this? And who should be enforcing this? You know, when we have lax laws, they know that they can come here.
Yeah. I mean, first of all, you know, people like you and I and Gina, like, we have billable addresses, right? So we're a revenue stream for the government. So of course we can't get away with something like that, you know, but someone that doesn't have an address doesn't have, you can't bleed a rock. So they'd rather just deal with the problem than anger their constituents, right? But I mean, it simply is this. You see how great San Francisco's doing, you know? You see how great San Francisco's doing. It's
You're
terrible.
being sarcastic, right? Okay.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
I was like, wait a second. Oh, I
but-
know they cleaned it up temporarily for the leader of China.
Oh, no,
correct?
that's a whole
Yeah,
other thing.
But
No.
I know. But you know it can be done.
Yeah, make
When they
no
want it to
mistake
be.
about it. San Francisco is terrible. I've been there several times. It's frightening, right, to be around there. These are not just to go back to those policies you were talking about. These people are not just sitting on the sidewalk. They're not just existing, right? These are aggressive, violent.
You've been chased, correct? I mean, your life has been a...
Yeah, I was chased. I was shot at in Seattle, actually.
Wait, was that the Sacramento story or was that a different story?
That's a different story.
Okay, we'll get to that.
Yeah.
But tell me about that. So you were shot at. I mean,
Yeah,
I
I was-
commend your bravery for doing this. You guys, you have to follow Eyes on Pittsburgh. This guy is literally laying down his life to bring us the truth. But go on.
It was just a crazy, you know, form of happenstance. I was in the wrong place at the wrong time. I was in Seattle working for Project Veritas, and I went past a group of homeless guys, and they were arguing about something, and next thing I know, there's bullets whizzing past me, right? I don't believe I was the target, you know, I was the intended target or anything, but there was another guy running away from the fire and everything, but I could actually hear bullets whizzing past me, and this was a dispute. I could hear, based on the few words I heard, this is a dispute over drugs. And so, yeah, I was actually on a bird scooter.
Which is crazy to say, because downtown Pittsburgh, I've had several friends, and one of the friends I have that lives down there, her brother ran for Congress, Jason Kilmeyer, and
Yeah.
his sister has literally witnessed fights between homeless people where they throw their tents in the street and get in fights, and they barricade themselves in front of her gym and she can't get out. I mean, and you're talking about that. I mean, who's to say what weapon they're going to pick up? She lives down there, her business is down there, and there's so many other people that have gone to patronize a theater show like with their kids, and they tell me, Erin, it's scary. I've been followed to my car. I heard a couple that was homeless fight about money behind me as I'm walking with my daughter back to my car. I mean, that is the worst case scenario situation that you've been, but this environment is brutal. It is unpredictable, and any one of us could be in the crossfire if it gets out of control. We're not trying to say that we're San Francisco right now, but we are trying to prevent us from becoming that.
Yep.
And you've seen it, and you've witnessed it, and you've almost had your life taken because of it.
Yeah. A couple times. It's been pretty terrible.
We are getting closer to the end of the show, but I just want to commend you, Bobby, on the bravery and the tenacious reporting that you've been doing, and you're uncovering the truth, and you're holding those local officials accountable. I mean, you're putting pressure on them. You're putting pressure on the Department of Public Works. You are putting pressure for us to just simply know the truth. We just want a safer city to live in. We don't want needles to be covered in our streets. We don't want those people to have to live in an inhumane situation in garbage. We want them to be rehabilitated and to get help. And you've seen the good works that these outreach programs can do. So hopefully our local officials will listen to this show and maybe take note from the people who are living in the city, and for you, for what you've been doing, and really take to heart like what we have to say. And together we can definitely definitely solve this issue. It's just we need them to work with the public and listen to us. Obviously, we're going to worry about what neighborhoods these are going to go in. And I mean, these are issues that we all need to decide together, but we need leaders that can stand up to this and make sure that we're not going down a path of destruction.
Couldn't agree more. I think everybody kind of has the same goal, compassion, and wants to get this fixed. But
Remind everyone where they can find you again.
Yeah. It's at Eyes on PGH across all social media platforms. You can find me. I'm mainly on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Rumble. That's where you find all my content.
Please follow Eyes on Pittsburgh. He is doing tremendous work here in the city of Pittsburgh. And that concludes our, and Gina, thank you so much for coming. And I love working alongside you, and you have been a great mentor to me. And together we're going to help make the city of Pittsburgh better. And I thank all the listeners today. And hopefully Sam Demarco will be proud of our show and he'll let us do this again.
Thanks, Sam.
Thanks, everyone.